Hi everyone, it's Kirsten again. In my last video I talked about basically my testimony and how the Lord freed me from a porn addiction and my day with dreaming addiction. So today I'm going to be talking about how he also freed me from anxiety and social anxiety. I struggled with social anxiety for a really long time. It started when I was in middle school, I believe. Yes, it started when I was in middle school in the 6th grade, and I can just remember all of my friends from the 5th grade from elementary school. We all went to the same middle school, and that was very exciting for me because I knew I was going to have so many friends that I could come and see again. And after like maybe a month of school, I guess I just stopped talking to those people. We all grew apart and made different friends, and I made my own friends, thank goodness. But even at lunch, it was still a little bit hard for me to sit with somebody because it was like I made friends, but like I made more of associates rather than actual friends. And yeah, I can just remember specifically gym class having a lot of trouble talking to people because I wasn't like anybody in my middle school. I was very, very different from everyone in my middle school. I'm just gonna say, I was like the whitewashed black girl. I mean, people didn't say it all the time. Some of my friends would point it out, but I noticed it a lot in how different my interests were versus like my peers. So that was very hard for me. So, and then when COVID happened, and that kind of made everything worse because we were all in the house. And then I just remember coming back for the 8th grade, and that was when it really started to kick in. I remember we had to wear masks, and we also had a uniform in my middle school. And I remember I would come in with my black mask on, my gray hoodie, and I wore this hoodie every single day. And I wore the hood over my head and my mask on my face, so no one ever really saw or knew what I looked like because I wore this hoodie and this mask every single day. And I basically just didn't talk to anyone outside of like the classroom. I mean, it's very easy to make friends in your classroom because you see them all the time and you have no one else to talk to. So yeah, that's basically what I did. I just talked to my friends in all of my classes, and that was fine. But then when it came to things like lunch, I didn't have anyone to sit with because I didn't have friends. I had associates. So what I would do every lunch period, I would go and sit in the dance studio because my dance teacher at the time, she was really cool. She let me sit in there, but it was really hard on days when I couldn't sit in there and she wasn't available. So I had to just kind of roam around the school. And this is like, I believe this is what I talked about in my last video. That's when I really started to grip onto maladaptive daydreaming because I didn't have any friends. I was very lonely and I was very bored. So when I walked through hallways, that's what I would do. I would just maladaptive daydream, had my AirPods in, and that's what I would do. And I was very, very withdrawn from my school. I didn't talk to anyone. I remember so many days like in gym class when I would have actual panic attacks because my gym teacher would tell us to partner up with somebody, and I didn't have any friends in that class. So I would just start crying, and I remember I would ask to go to the nurse because I would lie and say I came on my period when really I didn't. I just didn't know. I didn't know how to socialize with anyone. So basically I was just so incredibly gripped by fear and anxiety. I didn't try to make any friends. And then eventually when I did graduate from the 8th grade, I didn't even, you know how most people after graduation, they sit around and they speak to their friends and take pictures with their friends at the end of their graduation. I didn't have any, so I just went straight home. And then I really started to get like more in tune with God, or like really start my relationship with God and get a little bit more serious with it. And I was so convinced that high school was going to be so different. I was 100% convinced that high school was going to be a completely different experience. And yeah, that's what I thought coming in. I remember I specifically set goals. I wrote them down in a journal that I was going to make 2 friends by the end of the week, 2 real friends. And that's not what happened. So basically I got there, and that was when I used to make these cute little vlogs on my Instagram, and I'd be like, oh, I'm in gym class, or I'm in this class. And I was so excited to go there the first day because I knew that I was gonna be a little bit more. I figured I was gonna have less trouble making friends in a school like the one I go to versus my middle school. So yeah, I went in there expecting to have so many friends by the end of the day. And I remember because I do go to my school for dance, and my dance class was fine. I don't really remember making any friends, like real raw friends that year in my dance class. I remember talking to some people. In my actual academic classes, I don't remember really making any raw friends. Maybe some associates, if that really, but not very many. I specifically remember in gym class, gym class was a lot easier to make friends because 2 of the girls in my gym class were also in my dance class, and there was some other girl that was in another magnet. So all 4 of us were friends, and that was great. But then it was the same thing. Lunchtime came around and I hadn't made any friends, so I took my tail up to that library, and that's where I sat for lunch every day for the rest of my freshman year. I spent every single day as a freshman during lunch in the library, A days and B days, wildcat time in the library, and that's okay, of course, because you're studying, but I wasn't socializing. I didn't go to any football games at other schools. I didn't go to any no, I didn't go to any birthday parties. I wasn't invited to any parties because, again, I didn't have any friends. I would come home from school every day, do my homework, and that would be the end of it. I didn't get anyone's number. I mean, I follow people on Instagram, but you can do that with anybody. And yeah, I just did not talk to anyone, and that was very, very difficult for me because I wanted so badly to have that high school experience. I really wanted my experience to be different from that of middle school, but it was the exact same, but almost worse. And then homecoming rolled around, and actually, by homecoming, I did make one friend. That was great, and we're still friends to this day, so that was good. But yeah, at lunch, I didn't have any friends, and that was the hardest thing for me because there were days where the library wasn't open for lunch, and I would have to find somewhere to sit. And I can just remember I would just walk around the hallway. I would try to. Eventually, I started going to one of my teachers, and I would just sit with her. And I was so sad because I was like, wow, I really thought it was going to be different this year, and it wasn't different at all. So yeah, I didn't really do anything a typical teenager would do. During her freshman year in high school, I did absolutely nothing, and it was almost worse in my actual classes when they would be like, partner up for this assignment. I always was like, can I work alone? Because I didn't have any friends. And yeah, and I was still, that was again when I really was not after daydreaming again. That was when it was at its height because I felt like I didn't have anything that was like interesting in my life. I was very bored because I didn't have any friends, so I guess I would just cling to my imagination and the reality in which I did have friends. And I just, now that I think about it now, because I'm so much more mature in my relationship with God, I understand that it was Satan who wanted to have this grip of fear on me, who just did not want me to talk to anybody, because I didn't used to be like that. When I was in elementary school, I had no trouble making friends. I was like pretty popular actually. I had absolutely no problem, no issue making friends with anyone. Literally everybody wanted to be my friend. I was friends with my entire class, all 5 years of elementary school, and I went to two elementary schools. One for kindergarten and first grade, and the other for second through fifth. And again, I had no problem making friends. Absolutely none. So yeah, it was a pretty big shift for me to go from having so many friends to not having any friends. And I'm gonna tell you why. And this is so interesting because it was something that my dad had always warned me about, but because I was so young, I didn't understand, so I didn't listen to him. I had a friend. She was my older brother's friend's little sister. In my neighborhood, there was like a lot of like little kids, and we were all around the same age. And my brother, basically, it was mostly little boys, like little boys in the neighborhood, and they were all friends with my older brother. And my older brother and I were pretty close, so I would try and hang out with him and his friends, but there weren't any other girls, so I was like the only girl, and that was really hard for me. So I remember this one day, my brother and his friend introduced me to my brother's friend's little sister. She's 2 years older than me, and yeah, we kind of she didn't talk. I noticed immediately she was incredibly quiet. I still remember this day. She was so quiet. I walked around the neighborhood, she didn't say a word to me. I mean, she didn't say anything. She was like the shyest person on planet Earth. Nobody was shyer than her. She didn't talk to anybody. Eventually, we became best friends. We would play Roblox every day. We would FaceTime every day. We went to the same elementary school, so we were incredibly cool. We were always talking. I mean, she was my ride or die. She was my best friend. We were like this. And my family is very well acquainted with her because I always was asking, oh, can I go play outside with so-and-so? And they'd be like, yeah. But my dad, I'm not going to say he didn't like her because, like, he doesn't dislike anybody, but he didn't like her for me because she was so quiet. And my dad is like a very like Christian man. He's a very godly man. He's like, when you think of a man of God, it's him. Him and God are like this, and still are, thank goodness. So yeah, he would always tell me, I don't remember the exact words, but it was something like along the lines of like, don't let what she has get onto you. He was like, I don't want you being friends with her. I don't want you hanging out with her because I don't want her spirit of fear. Yeah, that's what he would say. He would say, I don't want her spirit of fear jumping onto you. Because I hung out with her every second of the day. We were always texting or playing the same video games together. We were always together. And he just did not like me being friends with her, and I would always be like, oh my gosh, Dad, like what is wrong with you? She's literally fine. She's my best friend. Like, why do you have a problem with her? And he'd always be like, Kirsten, you are just so fun. You are so lively. You're such an extrovert. You're so much fun. You have no problem making friends, and you're hanging out with somebody like her who's only gonna hinder you and stop you from making friends. Because you do know, I mean, you know, you've seen people. You know, you hang around with somebody so often, you start talking like them, and you start doing what they're doing, picking up words that they be saying. That's what it is. So like you hang around somebody for long enough, you eventually become like them. And that, I didn't notice it at first, but it slowly started to happen. I mean, again, like we went to the same elementary school. I would sometimes have to translate for her. We'd be talking to somebody and she didn't want to say anything, so I'd be like, oh, she said this. And it was like, I always claimed, I always claimed I am her translator. That was what I said all the time. We were always together. I would always claim that I was her translator, and I shouldn't have had to been. I mean, she was terrified to talk. And I remember it got to a point, because there were other girls in our neighborhood, so I was good friends with the other girls in the neighborhood. She wasn't really. It was 5 girls specifically. They didn't all know each other, but I knew all of them and I was cool with them. So when I wasn't playing with her, I was playing with them. And eventually she would join me and she'd play with them. And I don't know what it was, but she always seemed to find some sort of problem with my neighborhood friends. It didn't matter what it was. They were like, I remember 3 girls specifically, they still live in my neighborhood. I was really good friends with 2 of them. The youngest 2 was a younger one and a middle child. I was really good friends with both of them. We would always do like gymnastics and dance outside because they also danced. So I was hanging out with them. I didn't have any problems with them. But then I remember they would talk about her and they'd be like, she's so quiet and she's so weird. And me being the good friend that I am, I would defend her, of course. And then I guess I'm not sure exactly how it went down, but I know she found out that they were talking about her or something like that, and she didn't want to be friends with them anymore. And I don't know if they said anything really mean. I think they just said that she was weird because she didn't talk. Because she didn't talk, that's the truth. She really did not talk. So then I stopped hanging out with them, even though I had so much fun hanging out with them and I had so much in common with them because we were all dancers and gymnasts and whatever. So yeah, basically I stopped hanging out with 2 girls I was really close with because of her. And then another girl, I guess my friend, she was like, she thought that the other girl thought that she was too good for us. So I stopped hanging out with her too. Eventually, like all the friends that I had once had that I had so much fun playing with, that I had been friends with for like 2 years, I stopped talking to all of them for her because I wanted to be loyal to her and I didn't want her to feel uncomfortable. I didn't want her to feel like she couldn't hang out with me, even if I was hanging out with somebody else. So that's what I did, and that was like the worst mistake ever because I was already setting myself up to have no friends and to cling to one person all my life, because I know for a fact the Lord did not ordain for me to only have one friend in life. Because if you stick to one person forever and you don't branch out, you're never gonna get to experience what God has for you. And that's what I'm learning now. You're never gonna be able to experience the life that God has for you if you're clinging to one person like they're your lifeline, because one person should never be your lifeline. That's in marriage and in friendship. One person should not be your lifeline. The only person that should be your lifeline, and the one you always know is in your corner, is the Lord. The Lord wants you to have this amazing life where you have all these friends, because you can't spread his word if you are clinging to one person all the time. That's what my dad told me now. Kirsten, you cannot go out and do what your assignment, the assignment the Lord has put you on, if you are always hanging out with one person. Because the Lord has called you to multiple people. He called you to the world, not to one person. So no one's ever going to be able to experience what you have, but the gift that you possess, and the way that you can really change somebody's life and help them and lead them to Christ if you are always talking to one person. So that's like a little lesson for you and for me, something I'm still trying to execute in my life, I guess. So yeah, that's what it was. And we had fun together, but I look back at it now and she wasn't the greatest friend. Like she was, not like a really, really great friend. Like there was always some like competition with her that wasn't healthy at all. Like, when your friends are always trying to compete with you with stuff like that. But yeah, she basically made me isolate myself from everybody. Like I mean, it was like there were 5 spirits of fear that lived in her body. Like, it's like she came out the womb and fear was like, that's mine. I mean, when I tell you she wouldn't make eye contact with anyone, she wouldn't look at anybody. She was so shy, and it's so sad. It's so sad because that spirit of fear is so heavy. I mean, she didn't talk to anybody in her school. She didn't have any friends outside of me because that fear was it had such a grip on her life. It was so sad. I remember my dad actually had a conversation with her, and I was really embarrassed at first because I was like, why are you talking to my friend? He was like, you need to reject that spirit of fear. He told it to her face. He was like, that spirit of fear is on you. You need to reject it and stop being so scared. And I know she was very intimidated because she didn't understand. I didn't understand, but I understand now. And eventually, when I got, I think